Motivation is often treated as the starting point of progress, as if action should only begin once the right feeling appears. People wait to feel motivated before they work, change, or commit, believing that motivation is proof they are ready. But this belief quietly holds many people back because motivation is not a reliable signal of readiness, and in many cases, it is not even real in the way we imagine it to be. Motivation is a feeling, and like all feelings, it is temporary, reactive, and dependent on conditions. It rises when something feels exciting, new, or emotionally rewarding, and fades the moment effort becomes repetitive, uncomfortable, or uncertain. This makes motivation feel powerful at the beginning, but fragile over time. When people rely on motivation to sustain action, they unknowingly tie their progress to their emotional state, which constantly changes. One reason motivation feels fake is that it often appears after clarity, progress, or external stimulation, not before action. You feel motivated when you see early results, when someone encourages you, or when an idea feels fresh. But once the novelty disappears and effort becomes routine, motivation fades. This creates the illusion that motivation causes progress, when in reality, progress often creates motivation. Waiting for motivation before acting reverses the natural order. Another issue with motivation is that it tends to exaggerate confidence without providing structure. When motivated, people feel capable of doing everything at once, setting unrealistic goals and timelines. This emotional high creates intention, but not sustainability. Once the feeling disappears, the plans collapse, not because the person lacks ability, but because they built their effort on emotion rather than systems, habits, or discipline. Motivation also hides resistance rather than solving it. When you feel motivated, resistance feels distant, as if difficulty will not apply to you this time, but resistance always returns in the form of boredom, doubt, fear, or fatigue. When motivation fades, people often interpret this as a personal failure, believing they have lost something essential. In reality, nothing was lost. The illusion simply ended. Another reason motivation is misleading is that it encourages waiting rather than responsibility. People say they will start when they feel motivated, when life feels calmer, or when confidence improves. This places action in the future and removes urgency from the present. Discipline, on the other hand, does not wait for emotion. It accepts that discomfort is part of progress and moves anyway. This is why disciplined people often appear motivated, even though they are not relying on motivation at all. Motivation is also selective. It appears easily for things that feel pleasurable or aligned with identity, but disappears quickly for tasks that feel difficult, uncertain, or unrewarding. This means motivation favors comfort over growth. If progress depended on motivation alone, no one would persist through long learning curves, failure, or delayed rewards. The most meaningful growth almost always happens when motivation is absent. The danger of treating motivation as essential is that it creates inconsistency. Action becomes dependent on mood, energy, or inspiration, which leads to cycles of intensity followed by stagnation. People start strong, stop quietly, and then wait for motivation to return, repeating the cycle. Over time, this erodes self-trust because commitments are made emotionally and broken emotionally. What actually replaces motivation is structure. Habits, routines, and clear standards remove the need to feel motivated. When action becomes part of identity rather than emotion, progress continues even on ordinary or difficult days. This is why successful people often describe their work as boring, repetitive, or unglamorous. They are not driven by constant motivation, but by consistency. Motivation is not useless, but it is misplaced. It works best as a spark, not as fuel. It can help you start, but it cannot sustain you. Treating motivation as the engine of progress guarantees disappointment, because feelings cannot carry long-term effort. Progress requires something quieter and more stable: discipline, responsibility, and the willingness to act without emotional permission. In the end, motivation feels powerful because it promises ease, but progress requires acceptance of difficulty. Once you stop waiting to feel motivated and start acting despite how you feel, effort becomes more honest and reliable. You stop asking whether you feel ready and start asking what needs to be done. That shift alone changes everything. If this perspective resonates with you and you want to continue exploring discipline, mindset, and real progress beyond emotional motivation, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss future videos.